Hi everybody, welcome to Out of the Gate, Daily Racing Forum's weekend handicapping preview program. I'm Dan Illman. Thanks so much for watching. Here's what's coming up in this week's edition of Out of the Gate. Daily Racing Forum handicapper Matt Bernier and I will go over the first jewel in the Canadian Triple Crown. It's the Queen's Plate, plus special coverage of the Grade 1 United Nations Stakes from Monmouth, and the Grade 2 Princess Rooney Handicap at Gulfstream is a Breeders' Cup win and you're in race for the filly and mare sprint. JK's Play of the Day, a Woodbine Daily Double. Nicole Russo's Pedigree Pick segment focuses on 2 stakes races for 2-year-olds at Churchill Downs on Saturday. David Aragona's Timeform U.S. Spotlight. It's the Perfect Sting Stakes at Belmont on Saturday. Plus, Peter Thomas Fornatel's Tournament Talk segment, horses to watch, best bets, and lots more. So let's break Out of the Gate. We begin Out of the Gate with our Horse Watch segment. This might be a first on Out of the Gate. Horse Watch, 2 horses, same race. Neither one of them won the race. Matt, let's go back to last Saturday's San Carlos. You were really impressed by Horse Greedy off the John Sadler claim.
Yeah, there was just a couple of things that I thought were interesting enough about this race. We can take a look at the tape right now. Horse Greedy is coming from well off the pace, and he's one of 2 in here for John Sadler, both of them off the claim. And the thing I was most taken by this performance with Horse Greedy is the fact that he's really the only horse making up any ground. You can see the top 2 horses, St. Joe Bay and American Anthem, they're going on with it, but Horse Greedy put in a legitimate bid. Now, I suppose the tough thing going forward is, as well as he ran here, he earned a 101 buyer. I have to be honest, he's not going to be as talented as some of the other horses that he's going to have to face going forward. So he's in a little bit of no man's land, but I thought this was a promising enough effort.
I think you make 2 great points. One is that he was the only closer in a race which basically held together from start to finish. And 2, what do you do with Horse Greedy? Because Roy H. has got to be waiting in Southern California somewhere, and he's just probably too tough, not only for Horse Greedy, but for my Horse Watch, who was second in the San Carlos. Let's roll the tape again, and they turn to the stretch. St. Joe Bay, listen, yes, he might have been off form. He shouldn't have been 40-1 in this race, and it was nice to see him get back on track. Like Horse Greedy, it was the first start off the Sadler claim. A lot of folks forget that towards the end of 2016, early 2017, albeit against weaker graded stakes company, he was kind of the boss of the Southern California dirt sprinters before an ill-fated trip to Dubai, where he actually ran pretty well to be 4th. If St. Joe Bay gets back to his best, he's still not as good as Roy H., but he can make some money against graded stakes horses, and I wonder if they think about shipping him out of town. I wonder if they think about shipping Horse Greedy out of town to make some money.
You know, the other thing to keep in mind about a horse like St. Joe Bay, he has legitimate early speed, and that is so dangerous in those sprint races, especially if you catch another field where perhaps there's not a horse like American Anthem breathing down his neck. And like you say, if Sadler ships any of these horses out of town, if they stay in this sort of form, they're not impossible in wherever they show up next.
Keep an eye on Horse Greedy and St. Joe Bay, 2 really sharp claims by a sharp trainer in John Sadler, and put them in your Horse Watch on drf.com. Now let's get to some handicapping. The prestigious Queen's Plate, the first jewel in Canada's Triple Crown, is coming up next. Before Matt and I get down and dirty with our analysis of the Queen's Plate, let's head up to Woodbine. We've got Woodbine racing analysts Dawn Lupel and Jeff Bratt, along with DRF's Alex Campbell, taking a closer look at the plate.
Welcome to the DRF Watch. Dawn Lupel here from Woodbine, and I can't believe it. It is finally here, coming up on Saturday, the 159th running of the Queen's Plate. And we know so much more than we did before because the draw took place Wednesday morning. Field of 16 have entered. Morning line favorite number 10, Telekinesis, at 5-2. My counterpart in crime, Jeff Bratt, caught up with Alex Campbell of the Daily Racing Forum at the draw, and they have everything you need to know about this year's Queen's Plate.
Alex, how much did we learn from the plate trial and the Woodbine Oaks presented by Budweiser? The times were very similar.
I think we were able to separate kind of the key contenders coming into this race. Obviously, you have Telekinesis, the morning line favorite, Wonder Godot, and Dixie Moon are the top three choices in the morning line for the Queen's Plate. All ran great races that day. Like you said, the times were all similar, and so it's going to be tough to separate those horses when you kind of make your final selections. But we look like we have three legitimate horses coming into this race, and they all drew well, so it should be no excuses, I think, for those connections. They should be able to get great trips and run their races.
So let's talk about that a little bit. The starting gates, the auxiliary gate's going to be on the inside. The main starting gate's going to be on the outside. As you said, a lot of the key contenders have drawn well. Dixie Moon will start from post position number 7. You know, a horse that's at some portions of her career has been forwardly placed, but recently has been a little bit more productive coming from off the pace.
Yeah, they've really been able to get this horse to settle in her last couple of races. Obviously, you can throw out the Appalachian start at Keeneland, then back here for the Celine, and she was really comfortable just kind of sitting off the pace. Same trip in the Oaks and was able to hold off Wonder Godot in the final strides. So I think all three horses are going to be aiming for that similar stalking trip. It seems like the speed drew inside, and they're all outside, so it seems like they should all get an ideal position heading into the first turn, and then just try and stay clear of the big bulky field here, 16. So trouble could find a couple horses in this race, but those three horses should be in the clear, and like I said earlier, there should be no excuse trips for all three, so may the best horse win.
Well, Alex is so right. Trip is going to be so important in this big, bulky field of 16. So many prestigious connections entered here, none more so than the Samson Farms. If you want a little history of the Queen's Plate, just Google Samson Farms. It'll take you down the most wild trip of memory lane that you could possibly travel. Let's catch back up with the guys and find out more about the Samson entrance for this year.
You can't have some Queen's Plate talk without some discussion, Alex, of the red and gold of Samson Farms. They've got Say the Word and Strike Me Down. Let's first of all start off with Strike Me Down. And the tail of the cat seemed to be on his way to a victory and got caught late. I'm a little bit disappointed he wasn't able to win that race. What about you?
Yeah, we probably would have expected a better finish from him. He was clear, like you mentioned, and just got caught at the wire late. But, he's a well-regarded horse. He's well-bred, as most of the Samson Farm runners are. Ran up here on a windy day. Broke his maiden quite nicely on the Tapeta, so he's got experience on the surface, well-bred, like I said, and should be in with a shot on plate day.
What about the other Samson horse in this race, that being Say the Word? Maybe not as accomplished as a stablemate coming in.
I do like the fact that he's won at 1 mile and 3/16, though. I think it's the longest distance any of these plate horses has won at before, so he should have no problem with 1 1/4 miles. And like Strike Me Down, he has experience over the surface. He ran a strong allowance race against older horses in his most recent start. Beyer was in the 80s, so that fits with a lot of the key contenders in this field. So I think both Samson horses are in with a shot.
It's been a fun trail here on DRF Watch, profiling the contenders for the Queen's Plate, which is coming up Saturday, June the 30th, 2018. For more information, you can visit drf.com.
Great analysis from Dawn, Jeff, and Alex, but it's time now to take a look at the field for the Queen's Plate. The first jewel in Canada's Triple Crown. They're going the classic distance of 1 1/4 miles over the Tapeta surface. It is carded as race number 10. For expanded stakes analysis of all the graded races this weekend, including the non-graded restricted Queen's Plate, head on over to video.drf.com or the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel. Matt, this should be a sensational betting race, a full field of 16. Mark Casse has the 2 morning line favorites. And let's begin with the winner of the plate trial, the talented number 10, Telekinesis.
Yeah, Telekinesis looks like a legitimate talent here, and he's run well on dirt. He's run well on synth. And really, that was kind of a question for me leading into the plate trial. We're going to take a look at the plate trial stretch run right now. I was concerned about would he be able to handle this surface, and for a minute it looks like he's in deep water. But I have to be honest, Rose's Vision, I think he's a nice horse. Looked like he had a full head of steam. The fact that Telekinesis was able to extend down the lane away from him, I think that's a positive omen. I guess the question now, it boils down to, what price do you want to take on a horse like this? He's the 5-2 morning line favorite. I'd imagine he's somewhere in that ballpark when it's all said and done. I think he's a very likely win contender, but I'm not even convinced he's the best Casse horse in the race.
Poor Rose's Vision is mired out in post 16. That's got to hurt his chances. Telekinesis, though, has really good tactical speed and can work out a trip if he breaks cleanly from the gate, away from the scrum of horses trying to work their way towards the inside. You mentioned, though, that he might not be the best of the Casse horses. horses. The best could be the filly Wonder Godot, and talk about a bridesmaid. Maybe she'll feel pretty in blinkers.
That's all I can hope, because I kind of look at her and say, you know what, this is what I've thought she's wanted all along. 1.25 miles synthetic, and she has a little bit of versatility, but she's really developed a bad habit of hanging, where she gets up there and it looks like she got a full head of steam, but she doesn't go by. And we saw that most recently in the Woodbine Oaks, where Dixie Moon is a nice horse. We know she's going to run in this spot as well. She's down on the inside. But right about now, I'm looking at it saying Wonder Godot at odds of 1 to 5 is just going to go rolling on by. And she never does. And that's even with Dixie Moon hanging on her left lead for the final 1/8 of a mile. I think this filly, Wonder Godot, needs blinkers. Mark Casse put him on for the most recent workout. Johnny V gets reunited with her here. The distance isn't going to be an issue. And I'm hopeful that, like you say, maybe just that outfitting of blinkers is enough to get her sharpened up and allow her to get the job done.
It's odd that we flip-flop, because you know I'm the president of her fan club, and I'm kind of off her here, basically because of the price she's going to be. And you've been right about her pretty much all spring, saying, well, I'm not sure how good she is. You're on her here. You believe in the blinkers. This is a great game. I'm going with a weird price source in here. That's the number 9, Say the Word, a Samson homebred trained by Graham Motion. This horse was gelded over the winter, and he's come back firing with 3 good races. His first start back, he was only beaten a neck by Sniper Kitten, a nice turf horse that recently won the Mystic Lake Derby at Canterbury. And then perhaps key for the Queen's Plate, he was able to win his maiden at Keeneland going 1 mile and 3/16 on the turf. Let's take a look at his final prep for the plate, and keep in mind that he is the only 3-year-old in a field full of older horses going 1 mile and 1/16. He tried to get involved with a 4-wide bid on the turn, and he's going to flatten out just a little bit late. The best part of this race is something we're not going to see, the gallop out. Very, very strong. I'm not worried about the distance with Say the Word. I believe his third dam is Dan Smartley, who won the Canadian Triple Crown. This horse is slowly creeping up from a buyer standpoint. He's not too far off the major contenders in this race, and there's got to be pace in a classic worth $1 million in a 16-horse field. I think Say the Word's going to come with a good late run and outrun his odds in the plate. Nicole Russo's Pedigree Pick segment this week focuses on 2 two-year-old stakes races at Churchill Downs on Saturday, and Peter Thomas Fornatel will take you through all the latest tournament news in his Tournament Talk segment. Let's go to those segments right now.
Hey guys, Nicole Russo coming to you for Out of the Gate from Kentucky, where this weekend, closing weekend at Churchill Downs, a pair of stakes for juveniles with the historic Grade 3 Bashford Manor, as well as the debutante stakes for fillies. Now, last week, the renowned Royal Ascot meeting in England, of course, featured a handful of juvenile stakes, and one young sire who has entries in both those Churchill races emerged with a winner there as his 2-year-olds continue to fire. Shang, who is from the second crop of Coolmore's Shanghai Bobby, turned in a gutsy effort to win the Norfolk Stakes, defeating males here to remain unbeaten in 2 starts. Continues an international emergence for Shanghai Bobby, who has a handful of first and second crop stakes winners in the U.S., those horses emerging last summer and fall, and has 2 Group 1 winners in Brazil from his first Southern Hemisphere crop. Now, it's really no surprise that Shanghai Bobby, who is by leading juvenile sire Harlan's Holiday, also the sire of leading juvenile sire Into Mischief, has emerged with good 2-year-olds. He was a 2-year-old champion himself with an unbeaten 2-year-old season. The Breeders' Cup Juvenile, a gutsy performance there among his stakes victories, as he was a stakes winner both sprinting and routing, really showed a lot of versatility. And as his sire line is pretty versatile, the Harlan's Holidays run a little bit of everything. I'm not surprised that his foals can run on both turf and dirt, even though Shanghai Bobby, a main track competitor himself. His first offspring were well regarded commercially by people who thought they would run early. He checked in 4th in a very competitive freshman sire race by earnings last year. He was among the leaders in our exclusive sire list measuring progeny buyer performance, as of course, as I mentioned, he had a number of stakes horses. Looking at the field for Saturday's Bashford Manor, a pretty sizable field, and Shanghai Bobby's representative there is Shanghai Roo. The colt was a debut winner at Keeneland, one of those early firing 2-year-olds at Keeneland. He cleared the field and the lane to pull away for the win. Now, he was flattered when the runner-up there, My Hot Rod Lincoln, by a Coolmore freshman sire in Verrazano, came back to be stakes placed in his next outing at Churchill Downs. Now, that one runs earlier Saturday night on the Churchill card, a couple of hours before the Bashford Manor. So perhaps keep an eye out on My Hot Rod Lincoln as you decide how to evaluate Shanghai Drew later on if that one continues to flatter his rival. Well, Shanghai Drew drew the inside post for the Bashford Manor, and looking at the field for the debutante, you see Shanghai Bobby's runner here, Shanghai Rain, on the outside of the field of fillies. Now, she was fifth in her debut at Keeneland with a little bit of trouble, a troubled trip, never a surprise to see in the races. Came right back to win her next outing right here at Churchill Downs. So has that experience over the track, earned a 68 Beyer speed figure that day. That's narrowly the best in the debutante field. Well, that's it for me this weekend out of the gate. For more weekend action, let's get you over to Peter Thomas Fornatale for some tournament talk.
Peter Thomas Fornatale back with you on Out of the Gate. Unusual environs today. Actually driving up to Maine, temporarily stopped in Boston, getting ready for this pre-holiday weekend. Very excited about it. Very exciting things going on DRF tournaments this weekend. Oh, I almost forgot, joining me today for this Out of the Gate segment, Muggsy the handicapping Labrador, literally alongside here in the car. But big stuff on DRF tournaments this weekend, including as part of this Woodbine Festival card on Saturday, the Queen's Plate, their version of the Kentucky Derby. Also 3 graded stakes races, and we're going to be having a free contest for DRF Tournaments credit. You can get involved, tournaments.drf.com. Check that out. Another featured event this weekend on DRF Tournaments, opportunities to win into Keeneland this fall. Sunday, October 14th, is the Keeneland Fall Challenge to incentivize people to come to Keeneland for the weekend. They also always have a live bank event on Saturday as well. The Sunday event, though, is the big one. That one costs $3,000 to play, but you can win your way in on DRFT. Go ahead and put up $410, and you have an opportunity to win a prize worth $3,500. 1 in 10 entries will get that $3,500 prize that includes the $3,000 buy-in for Keeneland, as well as $500 in travel. I was talking before about Woodbine. You see the hat I'm wearing, 10 Strike Racing. My man JK and I from the DRF Players podcast, thanks to our friends at 10 Strike Racing, we have a part of a horse running in the Highlander. Perhaps you've heard of him, Long on Value. Very excited about his chances. 7-2 on the morning line. Every chance to win. Want to thank our friends at 10 Strike for letting us get involved in this fun adventure. It's a win and you're in race for the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint. And Godspeed to Long on Value come Saturday. And Godspeed to you, whether you're playing on DRFT or via DRF Bets or however you're getting your action this pre-holiday weekend. It should be great. All right, I got to get back on the road here, folks, but always good to get a chance to check in with you. Check us out on the DRF Players podcast and stay tuned for more Out of the Gate.
Are you a horse player looking to raise your game? For over 120 years, expert handicappers have relied on Daily Racing Form as their must-have source for news and data, featuring exclusive Beyer speed figures, Timeform US pace figures, and integrated replays. DRF Formulator is the most powerful handicapping tool on the market today. Use what the pros use. Go to drf.com/formulator and enter code DRFTV to get your first card free. drf.com. Raise your game.
Welcome back to Out of the Gate. Big afternoon of racing Saturday at Monmouth Park. The feature race is the Grade 1 United Nations Stakes. Let's take a look at these turf horses. They're going to go 1 3/8 miles for $300,000. For expanded stakes previews of all the graded races all weekend long, head on over to video.drf.com or the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel. We cover every horse in every graded stakes race. Matt, the number 5 Money Multiplier is the morning line favorite. The number 8 Bigger Picture for Michael Maker is the defending champion in this race. Maker also has Oscar nominated, however, and this is a horse that's very consistent.
Yeah, he's rock solid. I mean, he may not be the most likely winner of a race like this, but very rarely does he throw in a complete clunker. We're going to go back to his most recent start. This was in April at Keeneland in the Grade 2 Elkhorn. You see him in those familiar Ken and Sarah Ramsey silks, and this has come back to be a pretty live race. He also happened to have One Go All Go in this race, who ended up winning. He shows up in the United Nations on Saturday. But you brought up the biggest thing, Dan. He just shows up and runs his race Oscar nominated more often than not. Now, he's a little bit light, I suppose, on figures. He's never earned a triple-digit buyer in his career, and perhaps that's what it takes on Saturday. But look, am I going to really split hairs about a 99 versus a 100? I think if he shows up with his effort, he's got a puncher's chance.
You give him a trip, he's going to be right there. You can basically pencil in a 99 for Oscar nominated. It seems he runs that every single race. We expect One Go All Go to make the lead. We expect Oscar nominated to be close. Our top pick, Money Multiplier, he's very, very versatile. Perhaps best of all, other than the fact that he's trained by Chad Brown, he likes Monmouth.
Loves Monmouth Park, 3 for 3 in the exacta, twice a winner. His most recent start was one of those victories in the Monmouth. This is a Grade 2 event. First start off of a little bit of a layoff. I thought he ran very, very well in a spot like this. You see him between horses in those blue silks with the stars on them. And okay, maybe it's not the sexiest finish you've ever seen, but he's beating some pretty good horses in there. You've got the Visadero coming on the outside. He came back and earned a 98 in his next start. And I just like the way that he finished. And I think you and I both agree. We may not love Money Multiplier, but this might be the field for him in a Grade 1.
That might have been the most complete race he's run in a very long time, because going into the first turn, he broke really well. It was kind of surprising how well he broke in the Monmouth. And then when the favorite Frostmorn crossed over in front of him, passing the stands the first time, he really had to snatch up and put on the brakes, but then got himself right back in the race. He pressed Frostmorn throughout, and we saw him finish and hold off a late rally from Divisadero. I think he's a solid horse that's going to get a good tactical trip just off the pace, and maybe this isn't the strongest Grade 1 race in the world. Money Multiplier is our top pick for trainer Chad Brown. We'll move from turf to dirt, from New Jersey to South Florida. The Princess Rooney Stakes is up next. Let's throw up the field for the Grade 2 Princess Rooney Stakes at Gulfstream Park. One of 2 Breeders' Cup win-and-you're-in races this weekend. The other one is the Grade 1 Highlander Stakes. You can get that expanded stakes preview at video.drf.com or the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel, along with all the other graded stakes races this weekend. As for the Princess Rooney, fillies and mares going 7 furlongs, $250,000 is the purse. Todd Pletcher 4-1 on the morning line, Matt, with the number 3 My Miss Tappet, who is undefeated in sprint races and came off a layoff with a career best buyer effort last time out.
Yeah, and it happens to be the highest last out buyer speed figure in this field, a 90. We're going to take a look at that race. It was in a non-winners of 2. It was actually just an optional claimer, excuse me. But you see her, she's already made the front at this point, and she's beating inferior company. I think we need to call a spade a spade. The runner-up came back to earn a 70 in her next start. The 5th place finisher is 60. My Miss Tappet just simply better than these horses in here. Now the question becomes, do you really believe that she can handle the hike in class? Because this is going to be the first time she was really tested since last year as a 3-year-old. And I have to be honest, I understand it's Pletcher and it's 4-1 at Gulfstream. I'm not entirely sold that she's actually this good.
I agree, and I know that last 16th of a mile looked brilliant with Tyler just sitting there breezing on home, but it was a workmanlike effort to me. This horse had to really do a lot of work on the turn just to get into the race and on the lead. And you mentioned the inferior competition. That race has not come back strong at all. I'm going to try to beat her. You're going to try to beat her as well with the horse to beat, and that's the defending champion, Curlin's Approval.
Yeah, you know, I've never been a huge fan of Curlin's Approval, but one thing you've got to make mention of, you got to note that she's 8 of 14 lifetime at Gulfstream Park. She loves this racetrack. In her most recent race, that was basically a microcosm of how she actually runs down at Gulfstream. We're going to take a look at that run right now. She ran into a couple of common foes, most notably Rich Mommy, who's on the far outside right now. But the fact that Curlin's Approval has some tactical speed, and when she's set down for the drive, she just extends and opens up. I think the 7/8 of a mile is perfect for her, as opposed to Rich Mommy, who I think is better off at 3/4 of a mile. And you see right now she's geared down in these final 16th of a mile. It's a very impressive effort visually, but at the end of the day, she has bombed in some instances where she's probably not supposed to lose. I think she's the most likely winner. I don't entirely trust her, but I'm just going to lean toward the fact that she's probably just better than everybody else.
When we did the expanded stakes preview for this race, again available video.drf.com or the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel, we threw up the Timeform US pace projector, and it had the number 2 Miss Locust Point out on an easy lead in a situation favoring horses on or near the early lead. I hope that's the case. Let's go back to Miss Locust Point's most recent start. It was a 3rd place finish at Pimlico in the Skip It Stakes, but just take a look at this racetrack. It's soup, and Miss Locust Point was pressured every step of the way by Vertical Oak, one of the better wet track horses in the entire country. I think Miss Locust Point, A, didn't care for the slop, B, Vertical Oak loved the slop, and C, this time around, she's not going to be hounded in the early stages by a horse like Vertical Oak. She won the Grade 2 Barbara Fritchie 3 starts back at this 7 furlong distance after controlling the pace, and I'm hoping that Miss Locust Point can shake loose early for trainer John Service. JK's play of the day this week, it's a Woodbine Daily double on Queen's Plate Saturday. David Aragona from Timeform US is going to take a look at the Perfect Sting Stakes, Belmont's race number 4. Let's go to those segments.
Hey everybody, welcome to JK's play of the day. JK and little JK are getting ready to attack a water park here in Texas today. So that's why I'm just calling in through the phone. Wanted to let everyone know that we'll be heading up to Woodbine this weekend to watch the Queen's Plate for the first time. Excited about that. And so because of that, I'm going to give you a double leading in to the Queen's Plate. Starting in race 9, the Highlander Stakes, a 6 furlong win in your in Breeders' Cup race. We talk about them on the podcast all the time. I'm a huge fan for obvious reasons, but I really do believe in long on values. Chances here at 7-2. Should get a ton of pace to run into. He's second off of a break, off of a kind of a nice break. Was given a freshening after 10 strike, and Madacat purchased the horse. He missed the break a little bit last time. Closed into a 23-second opening quarter, going 5 at Churchill, and came running late. He's run well at Woodbine before in that long stretch. Interesting configuration. The turf course is outside of the main track up in Woodbine in Toronto. He's got a long stretch. He's run well in the Woodbine Mile here. I think he enjoys that surface, enjoys the racing up in Toronto, and I think he's going to get plenty of pace to run into here, long on value. I'm going to single him in the first leg, and then I'm going to try to beat Wonder Godot. We've been doing that all spring. She's a nice filly. Obviously, she's facing the boys in here. Mark Casse knows how to win this race. She's going to be bet to a shorter price because of name recognition. It happens all the time with these Queen's Plate horses. Horses that run in the United States on the 3-year-old trail and then show up there, they're always a little bit overbet. I think there's a little bit of value trying to beat her. I'm going to use 2 horses beating her, the 7 Dixie Moon and the 10 Telekinesis for Mark Casse. Both of those horses had good races in the plate trial and then also in the Woodbine Oaks. Those are the 2 that I need with long on value. Should be plenty of value there, beating Wonder Godot. Long on value, the 3rd choice on the morning line. I think he'll be bet down a little bit more in that spot. Good luck, and we'll see you next week.
Hi, this is David Aragona with this week's Timeform US Spotlight. We're going to be taking a look at the Perfect Sting Stakes. It's the 4th race at Belmont on Saturday, a field of 7 fillies and mares going a mile on the Widener turf course, and it's a very competitive spot. All the top fillies in this race are pretty evenly matched. The favorite in this race is probably going to be Lost Ardennes, who comes off a win in the Intercontinental Stakes on Belmont Stakes Week. But she's a very slight favorite because there are some nice horses in this race. We'll take a look at the entire field of 7. Note that the number 1 horse, Feeling Bossy, is cross-entered in a race at Monmouth, so we'll see if she chooses this spot. But there are 7 lined up for this race, and you see in the upper right-hand corner of the Timeform US preview screen, the Timeform US pace projector. That blue button indicates that this race is projected to favor horses on or near the lead, and the number 7 horse Pas de Souci is predicted to be on the lead. But it's worth noting that that none of these horses are really front runners. There's just kind of no pace in this race. So while Pas-de-Souci is the one that kind of runs up close to the pace in many of her races, she's not really a true front runner. So we'll see if Jose Lezcano decides to send her to the front. A horse like Feeling Bossy, the one, has shown speed in the past, but mostly going longer distances in slower paced races. We'll see if she's quite quick enough to get the lead in this race. So it's going to be a real rider's race to see who gets to the front in here. We'll take a look at the favorite, though, La Sardane. She certainly is not slow herself. We'll see if she's on the lead or if she takes up a stalking position under Flavien Prat. She won well last time, winning that Grade 3 Intercontinental. That was going 7 furlongs. She won going a mile and a 16th, 2 back at Churchill Downs, but that was against much weaker company. I wonder how far this horse ultimately wants to go. She kind of has this very short burst of speed, and she doesn't always carry it through to the finishes of her races. She's got this really quick action that's not terribly efficient, so I always wonder about the horses like that stretching out in distance. She won that race last time, and obviously a horse coming off a graded stakes win is always going to be formidable in a non-graded stakes race. But when you really look through who was in that race, a lot of the horses that were supposed to be her main rivals, like Stormy Victoria and Thundering Sky, they just didn't show up at all in that race. And she beat a couple of horses, Fabian and Heavenly Score, who just aren't quite up to the class of the rest of this field. So while she is the horse to beat and she comes off those 2 victories, I just feel like this is a slightly tougher spot for her, and she's going to really have to prove her quality here. Lido is a horse that's probably coming out of the best race since she finished right behind a Raving Beauty last time, who was just much the best in that bogey. And of course, a Raving Beauty came back and won the Grade 1 Just a Game on the Belmont Stakes undercard. Lido has obviously improved in recent starts. She actually comes in off some of the highest time formula speed figures in the field. Although she's a horse that usually takes a while to really wind up her run, she kind of has this more grinding style. And if this race features a very slow pace and it turns into a sprint to the finish, I just wonder if she really possesses the quickness to stay with some of these horses late. She's definitely a classy filly, and I think you have to use her. But at a relatively short price, I preferred some others. Chad Brown has a really top filly in this race, Thais, who's kept good company. She's run well in all of her starts in the state so far. She comes off a win against much lesser last time at Belmont, but that was her first start off a layoff, and it was obviously a prep. She earned a respectable speed figure for that race. She was a heavy favorite that day, 3-5 at the final odds, and she had to work a little bit harder than you might have expected to beat some inferior fillies. But you go back to her races last year, she finished a good third behind, an excellent Chad Brown stablemate, Rimska, in the Winter Memories. Ultimately, though, she's just a filly that doesn't really have that late kick at the end of her races. She's gotten very good trips in many of her stateside starts, and she just doesn't always have that oomph at the finish that you really want to see. So I wonder if she's going to take that next step forward. But, I mean, again, she's one that you have to use in this race because she has the ability to win. I'm going to take a shot against these horses within the Lee. She's a horse that hasn't run quite fast enough to win this race yet, but I think she's the up-and-comer in this race that could take that next step forward. She's coming off an optional claiming win last time. It was a weaker field. She beat Pas-de-Souci, who's also in this race, who is not really among the top contenders, but in the Lee showed her quality last year when she finished 4th behind Rimska in that Commonwealth Oaks at Laurel Park. She was breaking from the outside post that day. She was wide around both turns, and I thought she ran really well to be 4th in that race, finishing as close as she did at the finish. Her first start off the layoff this year at Aqueduct wasn't great, but she might have needed that race. Last time out, I know she was facing weaker, but I really liked the way she finished off that race. She just kicked into another gear in the final 1/8 of a mile. And if you're looking at the late pace ratings to see who's going to have the best finish in this race, she has the highest of any horse in this field with a 100. I just think if she gets kind of a stalking trip, because she does have some tactical speed, maybe she can outfinish her rivals and take that step forward. For Shug McGay, who is renowned for getting his horses to continue improving with added starts. So I'm taking in the Lee, hoping for a price around 9-2 or 5-1 in this pretty wide open field, but I'm definitely using the favorites like Thais, Lido, and La Sardane. So in the lead for me in the perfect stake at Belmont on Saturday. Now let's send it back to the studio.
Time for our best bet segment here on Out of the Gate. Matt, you've got the Queen's Plate, but you've got a ton of good graded stakes races on the undercard, including the King Edward Stakes.
Yeah, race number 6, that is the King Edward. I'm interested in Caribou Club. This is a horse for Tom Proctor. I just kind of feel like as a 4-year-old, maybe the light bulb's gone on and he started to put it all together. We're going to take a look at his most recent start. This was also up at Woodbine in the Connaught Cup. And you see him, look, he had a perfect trip. I'm not going to argue with anybody that says otherwise, but I just like the way that he stays on and finishes this race. You see Gary Boulanger is riding him with the utmost confidence, puts him down to a drive right now. On the far outside, you've got Tower of Texas as well as Conquest Panthera, a couple of horses he'll run into again on Saturday. I just think that the mile distance for Caribou Club is better suited than for possibly those other two horses. And again, I'm thinking way down the line. Maybe I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. But if he runs well here, you got to start wondering if the connections already are circling a race like the Woodbine Mile, saying, you know what? Why not? The mile isn't a problem. The one-turn configuration isn't an issue. And if he runs another competitive figure here into 101 in the Connaught Cup, if he backs up another triple digit, all of a sudden, an interesting horse.
My best bet is at Monmouth on the United Nations undercard. It's race number 9, the Eatontown Stakes, and I'm going to go with the number 3, Lift Up, who has won 5 races on turf. She has started 5 times on turf. She's pretty good. Let's go back to her most recent start. This was at Monmouth in the Miss Liberty Stakes, and you see her, she's completely bottled up in behind horses. And if you're betting Lift Up today, you're going, oh no, Mario Pino, what do you do now? You're in behind 3 horses. How do you get out? You get out, but is it going to be too late? And Pino really doesn't get excited. This filly gets out. He doesn't really put her to much task, and she just explodes away from this field to register her first ever stakes victory. She is now obviously stepping up in class against graded competition, but I'm not Elysia's world's biggest fan. I'm a little bit sick and tired of her act. I think Special Event wheeling back on 9 days rest after running a real tough second to New Money Honey could be susceptible to a bounce. I think Lift Up has found a good spot for her graded stakes debut on turf, and I would use her along with the number 4 Dream a While for Chad Brown. So my best bet, Monmouth, race number 9, the number 3, that's Lift Up. We urge you to follow all of DRF TV's offerings on Twitter at DRF Video, and for the latest news and notes around the thoroughbred world, follow America's Turf Authority Daily Racing Form at DRF Inside Post. That's all for this week. Best of luck when your horses break out of the gate.